I yelled, "Do as I say or pack your bags." In front of our children, he just smirked and then, I'm really ashamed of myself for not being a good wife to my husband within the last 8 months. I have been nothing but a thorn in the flesh for him. I didn't know what I was doing back then, and now I'm at the verge of losing my marriage. I take full responsibility for everything that happened. I really wished I could turn things back to the way they used to be. Hi, Reddit. My name is Claire. I am a 39-year-old accountant at a private company, which I wouldn't be mentioning here due to personal reasons, guys. My husband's name is Sebastian. He is 42 years old. My husband is a businessman. He owns his own company. Sebastian and I have 2 children, a 10-year-old girl, Celine, and an 8-year-old boy, Kelvin. I don't know how I'm going to go on with this, but I hope I will be able to anyway. Right now, I'm overwhelmed with emotions because I'm at the verge of losing not only my marriage, but my job that I have worked so hard to keep for 13 years. I have had that job even before I met Sebastian. As it is right now, I don't know how things are going to be. The truth is, I have been a horrible person to my husband within the last 6 months. I don't know what even got into me that made me to be a thorn in the flesh to Sebastian. All the years we have been together, I have never for once disrespected him for any reason. My husband is a very hardworking person and also a caring husband. Not just a caring husband, but also a loving father to our 2 kids. When I first met Sebastian, I knew that he was the right guy for me. I met him at a business conference that I attended with my colleagues 13 years ago. The company I'm currently working for told you guys about appointing 3 workers and I to attend a business conference. It was there I met Sebastian, and I fell in love with him instantly. For me, it was love at first sight back then. Okay, guys. I wouldn't want to bore you all with how Sebastian and I really got talking because it's a very long story, and it would waste much of our time, which I don't want. Long story short, Sebastian and I got talking 3 days after that conference. Yes, 3 days later. I couldn't get through to him at the conference, but somehow I did after 3 days. Sebastian was not only good-looking at that time, but smart and hardworking. I was very much interested in him the first time I set my eyes on him, most especially when he got a moment to speak at the conference. It was then I realized that I had fallen head over heels for him. Getting to know him in person was a big deal for me. That's why I didn't stop looking for ways to have a conversation with him, which I eventually did. Sebastian and I started off as friends with no strings attached. Well, that was on his side because he was more than just a friend to me at that time. Of course, I couldn't confess my love to him. I felt like he should be the one to do that. Guys, no matter how much I love a guy, I can't bring myself to confess my love to him before he does. I don't know about you all, but to me it doesn't really make any sense. I feel like the guy should be the one to do that, and I waited for Sebastian to do it, even though it took a few months before he professed his love for me. I was happy that I didn't have to compete with any lady within those few months. I waited for Sebastian to tell me how he felt about me back then. One thing I was sure back then was that the friendship Sebastian and I had was nothing but a genuine one. He knew how to respect boundaries, and he was never the type to take advantage of anyone. Sebastian, since the first time I knew him up till this moment, is still the same person. He has never changed, most especially in his character, and how caring he was back then. After waiting for a few months, like I said earlier, Sebastian professed his love for me and asked me to be his girlfriend at one of our dinner dates we usually go on. I didn't waste any seconds to accept his proposal because I had been waiting for it for a long time. At that time, it felt like we should skip the dating part and get married because our friendship before the proposal was more like a relationship to me. I mean, Sebastian and I did all what couples did, except for the fact that we didn't get intimate. We spent long hours on the phone, most especially at nighttime, because that was the only time we could talk. Of course, we both had jobs to do. Even if we had a hectic work schedule, we always made sure to talk on the phone before retiring for the night. Sometimes, we usually stay on the phone till the early hours of the next day. I didn't mind staying up that late to talk to Sebastian at that time because he was my most favorite person. Talking with him for that long after my hectic work schedule was great. We got to talk about how our day went and other random stuff. It was really amazing back then, guys. I wouldn't mind having such a love story over and over again because it was really a beautiful one. After a few months of dating, Sebastian and I decided to tie the knot together to settle down as couples officially. It was a simple and memorable wedding, attended by close relatives and friends. I'm not really the type of person that liked an extravagant wedding, even though Sebastian was capable of giving me one if I had wanted, but I didn't. I wanted something simple and memorable, which I got. It was more like an intimate wedding. I would have that over and over again with Sebastian a million years. So guys, 2 years after we got married, we had our first child, Celine. My husband and I stayed 2 years before having Celine because we wanted to have kids when we were sure we both were ready emotionally. For me, I didn't want to have kids immediately after the wedding because I wanted Sebastian and I to enjoy ourselves before having kids. At that time, we both were extremely busy and barely even had time to meet during the day because of the nature of our jobs. Also, I wasn't fully ready to become a mother then. A lot of things I read about being a first-time mom scared me a lot, and so I waited until I was fully ready to go through all of that. So, a few days after our 2 years anniversary, I discovered that I was pregnant. I was happy about it, though. In fact, all of my fears and worries all vanished when I told Sebastian about it. He assured me we were going to go through the journey together and would support me in every step of the way. And guess what, guys? He did. Yes, Sebastian kept on to his promise. Looking back right now, I realize that I'm not worthy of the way Sebastian had treated me during those years. Instead of being a caring partner to him in appreciation of all that he had done for me and the kids in the past, I became his biggest nightmare within the last 6 months. I would be the biggest liar if I say I'm not sorry for my actions. I'm truly sorry for everything, and I hope Sebastian will forgive me. I feel really ashamed of myself right now. I can't imagine that I threw away what Sebastian and I had shared for 12 years, all because of a little challenge. Everyone seemed to be taking my husband's side after everything that has happened. Well, I wouldn't blame any of them, though. I even would have done that if I was to be in their shoes. What I did was horrible and not good at all. No man would put up with the way I handled things over the last 8 months like Sebastian did. It takes such a good and caring man that loves you so much to do that, and that was what Sebastian was to me. If I could turn back the hands of time, I would really love to go back and make things right. The way it should have been. So guys, like I said earlier, Sebastian kept on to his promise, and he supported me all through my first pregnancy journey. In fact, I almost forgot that period that I was carrying our first child because of the way Sebastian treated me. I didn't worry about anything, and my first experience wasn't that stressful. I didn't give my husband a hard time either, because he provided everything that would make me comfortable. After 9 months, Celine came into our lives, and we were the happiest couple on earth. She is everything we ever wanted in a child. 2 years after she was born, we had Kelvin, our little champ. Kelvin takes so much after Sebastian, while Celine takes after me. After Kelvin was born, my husband and I came to the conclusion of not having kids anymore, because Celine and Kelvin was everything we wanted. So guys, we made a decision to take care of the 2 kids we have and also focus on our jobs. We also moved out of the apartment into a bigger space. The idea of moving into that apartment was all mine. I loved the outdoor view, and also it was closer to my workplace. Sebastian and I co-leased the apartment together, which I didn't have any problem with. I was very happy that my husband and I had kids in our early years of marriage. Our little family was so adorable. I couldn't ask for anything else. My joy of being a mother and a wife was complete. My husband has been nothing but the best husband and father any lady would ever ask for. He fitted into it and played his role so well effortlessly. My husband made sure that the kids and I were happy and got us whatever it was that we wanted. He provided everything and made sure we lived comfortably. Despite his hectic schedule, he made out time for us. Most especially when we had a family outing. Sebastian never missed that for anything. He would put all work on hold just so he could be with us. Guys, it's rare to see such a good man as Sebastian nowadays. I was lucky to have such, but I blew it up just like that. I don't think I would be able to heal from this anytime soon. I still can't imagine that I'm out here without my husband and kids. Like the saying goes, you don't know the value of something until you lose it. It's now that I understand what that meant. I didn't value my little family, or maybe I did, but not enough. Now that I don't have that anymore, I'm terribly regretting why I was so foolish to have carelessly thrown it away. What really bothers me at the moment is the fact that my husband is not even speaking with me. He wouldn't let me into the compound to see him or the kids. I have been pleading with him to forgive me, but he's been playing hard to get. From the look of things, guys, I honestly do not think Sebastian would have me back. It's been 2 weeks and nothing has changed. I know you all must have been wondering how Sebastian and I got here, right? First of all, everything that happened from the beginning wasn't entirely my fault, but then again, I made the whole situation worse, or can I say terrible? 8 months back, my husband had an issue with his company. Yes, guys, Sebastian's company had a little issue which resulted in his company crashing. As much as I would have loved to explain everything in detail, I wouldn't also want to make things more complicated as they are now. I'm sorry, guys, but I can't share with you all the root cause for my husband's company crashing at that time. I would be a horrible person if I say I play ignorant with what happened to Sebastian's company that period. My husband never hides anything from me. He always made sure to take me along with whatever he was doing, be it family or personal issues. Things about his company weren't excluded also. So guys, just one morning, Sebastian company had a little issue which resulted in it crashing. The company was closed down and my husband tried everything within his capacity to get his company back running, but to no avail. The money he had saved up was to compensate his employees, reassuring them that they would get back to work in no distant time. None of us were happy about what happened then. Most especially me, I wasn't happy. I knew the hard work Sebastian put in making sure his company ran smoothly, and watching it crashing was very heartbreaking. My husband wasn't himself at that time because of what was going on, but he couldn't show his emotions because he didn't want me to break down either. Unfortunately, guys, that was where I messed things up. 3 months after the whole incident, everything changed. I got tired of the whole situation, and I couldn't take it any longer. I was exhausted both emotionally and financially. I picked up Sebastian's responsibility, and it wasn't really funny for me. I didn't even know what to do at that period. Sebastian wasn't even helping matters at all that period because he had no income coming in to fend for the house. I took over groceries shopping, utility bills, the kids' school fees, and other household bills. Most especially, the house rent of the apartment we lived in. I was paying both Sebastian and I share of the bill. The bills were too much for only me to handle. I couldn't even take good care of myself properly. Yes, my husband did all of those things that period, and he never complained. I won't deny that. But guys, Sebastian's income was far higher than mine. I was an employee while he had company. A company, guys. My monthly income was nothing compared to his. In fact, guys, my monthly income was the same amount my husband paid his personal assistant. So guys, it wasn't really easy for me at that time that the Sebastian company folded up. I knew the kind of trouble I was in when that situation came up. It only meant one thing at that time, which was that I would be the one to take Sebastian's responsibilities from that moment onwards. I knew that it wasn't going to be any easy one. Taking care of the household bills and the kids' school bills was not really funny. The household bills were what got me really frustrated. After settling everything, I had no penny for my upkeep at the end of the month. The little savings Sebastian and I had before the unfortunate incident was used to sort things out for the company, but didn't work out. Well, that was what Sebastian told me at that time. I never believed it because I thought to myself that it was a made-up story. Imagine working so hard and not being able to spend the money you worked for, only using it to sort household bills. I don't know if any other woman out there could do that with ease, but for me at that time it wasn't really funny to me. Such experience is one that I don't want to have again. You all can call me selfish, but it's okay. The comment wouldn't be strange to me any longer because I have been called that several times since the last 2 weeks. It hurts anyway, but there's nothing I can do about it. Do I deserve to be called that? Of course I deserved it even worse than that because I have not only been selfish but a terrible person. I'm not really proud of what I did. Guys, because Sebastian couldn't take up his responsibility at that period, I didn't give him that respect he deserved. I disrespected him at any slightest provocation. Taking over his role made me feel like I could whatever it was that I wanted. The love I had for him faded away, and it was hard to love him back like the way I used to. Saint tried everything he could for us to get back together like we started when we were dating, but it didn't work out. Despite my rudeness and disrespect to him, he kept quiet and didn't raise his hands on me for once. I have never seen any patient man like Sebastian. He pulled up with my excesses and behaved normally. I feel really stupid because I only took the household responsibility for just 8 months and made the house a living hell for Sebastian. On the other hand, my husband had been taking care of everything since the last 12 years of our marriage and never complained about it. Before Sebastian's company crashed, he shouldered all responsibility without asking me to contribute a dime to it, except for the apartment we co-leased together, which he sometimes paid in full without bothering me about it. Those that heard about everything that happened between Sebastian and I kept making comments like I only married my husband because of his financial capability. Some even said that I never loved Sebastian, that it was all for his money, and that if truly I didn't marry him for his money, I wouldn't have behaved the way I did. I don't know how many people I would have to address to tell them that I didn't marry my husband because of his financial capabilities. Sebastian and I, like I mentioned earlier, had a good love story. It was all love at first sight for me from the beginning. The fact remains that I loved Sebastian so much, and he can't even deny that. The only thing I'm guilty of is the way I behaved when things went south for him financially, and he wasn't able to provide for just 8 months. I'm guilty about that, and I'm not proud of it. So guys, a lot of things really happened within the last 8 months. My husband and I always argued on every little thing. Like I said earlier, most of the arguments were mostly my fault. The billings overwhelmed me, and I got angry at every little thing. I also didn't pay any attention to our kids since Sebastian was around. Also, I stayed up late at night and never gave my husband any reasonable explanation. That was mostly one of the things that caused our frequent arguments. My late nights also resulted in me cheating on Sebastian. Yes, guys, I cheated on my husband with the random guy I met at the club. His name was Paul. Paul was nothing compared to my husband. All I wanted from Paul was for us to have a good time together. I told him about my marital status, and we agreed not to expect anything from each other. Sebastian had no idea about my affair. Maybe he knew about it, but pretended not to say anything. My late nights were enough evidence for him to have suspected that anyway. Also, it's been months since Sebastian and I got intimate. I was angry that period not to let him touch me, even though he tried several times. I kept giving him the excuse that I had a hectic work schedule and wasn't in the mood. At some point, my husband even stopped asking for it, and I didn't bother about it, though. So guys, the once happy family we had at that time was gone in a second, and it was all because of me. The only offense Sebastian Committee made was his company crashing, and that was all. It wasn't like he had an affair or something. I also have been asking myself what really happened that I hated my husband so much. I thought to myself, if truly what people have been saying about our relationship was true, that our relationship was based on the monetary benefits I enjoyed, people would say that because my actions said so. I didn't marry Sebastian for money, but I honestly don't know why I became so bitter when the money wasn't longer there. At that period also I got advice from the wrong people, my friends most especially. But at that time, I thought that they were good advice because they were my friends. They were gradually destroying me, and I failed to have realized that. Well, I wouldn't blame them because I'm old enough to know what's bad and good. They advised me based on what I told them all the time about my marriage. They advised me that I file for a divorce and take our 2 kids with me and move on with my life. They also reminded me how beautiful I was and that I could get any man that I wanted. I thought about it and I saw reasons for it, and so I decided to do it. Then my makeup was made up because I couldn't continue shouldering all the responsibilities. I also made up my mind to go after one of the rich guys that had been asking me out since they had what I wanted. In fact, I started a relationship with one of the rich guys that was asking me out at that time. Yes, guys. I cheated on Sebastian twice. First was Paul, but only lasted for 2 months. The last guy was Fred. Fred was good-looking and also rich, and most importantly, he was single at that time. Fred wanted a serious thing with me, and I opened up to him about my marital status, which he didn't have any problem with. In fact, Fred told me that he would help me out with the divorce, and also said he would make sure I get full custody of my kids and would take care of them. On hearing that, I got really happy and didn't feel bad about getting the divorce because Fred assured me that he would stand by me. So guys, one day I came back home after work as usual, but I didn't come back alone, but with a guest. It was no one else but Fred, my new affair partner at that time. Since he had promised to stand by me in filing for a divorce and getting full custody of my kids, that gave me the morale to bring him home, and I didn't care about what Sebastian would say or how he was going to react. We got into the house and found my husband and the kids in the sitting room. The kids were busy with their homework, while my husband was on his phone, probably scrolling through social media like he does at that time. Since when Sebastian's company folded up, I didn't see him making any attempt to bring things back to normal except for the first 2 or 3 months of the incident. That was what got me upset the most. All he did during that period was just being at home during the day. Well, sometimes he dropped the kids at school and picked them up at closing hours. At least he eased my workload in that aspect. I didn't have to think about that every day before going to work because my husband had it covered. So guys, Fred and I walked into the house, acting all lovey-dovey in front of my husband and the kids like we were a couple. As courtesy demanded, I thought of introducing my husband and Fred to each other, since that day was their first time seeing and getting to know each other. We got closer to Sebastian and I said to him, "Meet my new friend, or should I say boyfriend?" Immediately, Fred and I bursted into laughter and kissed each other in front of him. Then I proceeded to tell Fred to meet Sebastian, my husband, while he stretched out his hand for a handshake. But guess what, guys? Sebastian ignored us both like we didn't exist. He looked at Fred and I for a few seconds before he went back to whatever he was doing on his phone. I didn't like how Sebastian behaved with my guest, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to ruin the moment for Fred and I. So guys, Fred and I got seated and we chatted for a few minutes before I told him to give me a few seconds that I wanted to freshen up and join him when I was done. Immediately I stood up. I asked Sebastian to serve something chilled to my guest before I came back, but he didn't reply to me. My husband acted mute like he did the time Fred stretched out his hand for a handshake. At that moment I got really upset and asked him why he wasn't doing what I asked him to do. At that moment Sebastian was all filled with anger. He looked like someone who had gotten fed up with something. Sebastian asked me who gave me the audacity to order him around like he was my errand boy. He asked me if I had forgotten who he was to me, that soon then he would remind me again that he was my husband, and I should give him the respect that he deserved. I told him that if truly he was my husband, like he claimed, then he should start acting like one and take back his responsibility as it should be, and not leave everything for me. I told him that so long I was the one that had been paying the rent, including his own share of the bill, together with the kids' school fees and other household bills. He should be ready to do as I say, or otherwise pack your things and get out because I had had enough and I couldn't continue any longer. I also told Sebastian that I paid the bills, and living under the roof I pay for means abiding by my rules, or otherwise the door is opened for him to leave at any time. Immediately, Sebastian replied by saying he was tired of everything and didn't think he could put up with my excesses any longer. He also said that the last 8 months made him realize how horrible a person I was, and that he couldn't believe that he married a heartless woman like me as his wife. Not only that, guys, Sebastian said I had no shame. In me, that I had the nerves to dare order him in front of the kids, and also had the audacity to bring in a stranger into our home and dare to introduce him as my boyfriend. Sebastian told me how disappointed he was and said he couldn't take my misbehavior any longer. I told him that it's either he do as I say or pack his bags and leave because he was of no use in the house anyway. I reminded him that I had been the one taking care of him and the household bills, which shouldn't be like that. I even told Sebastian that I was going to get a divorce and end the charade called marriage once and for all. Sebastian looked at me for a few seconds, smirked, and left. All the while Sebastian and I were arguing, Fred did nothing but sat down and listened to the whole thing. Our kids also saw everything that happened between us. It wasn't even their first time witnessing that. It was one of our daily fighting episodes, just that that particular one got more heated than the previous ones that we have had. Sebastian stepped out of the house and didn't return back home until 2 days later. I didn't even bother reaching out to him, and he didn't care to check on the kids, and I either. We both were mad at each other over that argument, and none of us were ready to apologize. I didn't see the need to apologize to Sebastian anyway. I was fed up with the whole thing, and I needed some breathing space at that time. The argument we had that day made me feel like I had lifted a huge burden off my chest. I felt so relieved. So guys, my husband didn't return home until 2 days later. Sebastian coming back home after 2 days wasn't a good one for me at all. I thought Sebastian coming back home was for him to pack up his things and leave, or thought he was even coming to beg me. But no. That wasn't the case that time. Sebastian coming back from wherever he went for 2 whole days was to send me out of the house. Not only that, guys, Sebastian was a step ahead of me during the last 8 months. He filed for a divorce a month ago and was waiting for the right time to dish it out to me. The fight we had was the straw that broke the camel's back for him. Another shocking part of everything that happened was that my husband was able to get his company back running 5 months after the crash. That is, for the last 3 months, everything was back to normal at the company, and I wasn't aware of it. Sebastian never told me because my behavior towards him during his trying moments showed that I didn't care about him or his company. He told me all I ever wanted was money and nothing else. Sebastian also said he didn't tell me about it because he wanted me to continue paying the household bills that I couldn't pay that I was rubbing at his face so I could see the amount he spent every month taking care of the home and the monthly upkeep he gave me every month. Hearing those words from Sebastian made me feel disappointed in myself. I realized that I had messed up and destroyed everything that I had beyond. My husband told me that he doesn't want to have anything to do with me any longer because he is tired. Guess what, guys? Sebastian had me pack out of the house and told me not to set foot into the compound again. I haven't been able to see Sebastian or my kids since the last 2 weeks. Guys, the whole thing that happened is also going to affect my job. My boss and Sebastian have been business partners over 15 years now. My husband threatened to take away the job that I had been bragging with. My boss has asked me not to resume work until further notice. I really don't know what my offense was, but my boss hadn't said anything about it to me. I have read the email over and over again, but nothing has changed. When Sebastian asked me out, I went over to Fred's place to back me up like he had promised, most especially when Sebastian had filed for the divorce, even before me. I told Fred that I would need his lawyer to take up the divorce case and that of the custody of my children. But guess what, guys? Fred told me he wouldn't want to have himself mixed up with whatever thing that was going on with my husband. He told me to patch things up with Sebastian because he wasn't sure if there was going to be a place for me at his home. Fred even advised that we should stop seeing each other until the whole thing settles down because he didn't want any dirt on his image. To say that I was shocked hearing those words from Fred was an understatement. I was more than shocked, guys. I didn't even know how to feel or react that day. Imagine Fred giving me all that confidence and I thought he would stand by me, but I was mistaken. I'm left alone with no support. I hope I can win both the divorce and child custody in court. I have tried pleading with my husband to forgive me, but it seemed his mind had been made up already. I would be the happiest person on earth if Sebastian forgives me and takes me back, though. I still want my marriage, but also want to win the divorce case if Sebastian doesn't change his mind. Update. Hello, Redditters. I'm back here to update you all about everything that happened in the court concerning my last post I made 3 months ago. Guys, the court case was not really an easy one. A lot of adjournment due to one reason or the other. But in the end, Sebastian won custody of our kids, and he's going to take care of them, and I'm only allowed to see them for a few hours. I still can't believe that this is what my whole life has become right now. I didn't even get compensated in the divorce, not even a pin was given to me. Sebastian took everything and didn't care how I was going to live my life. I know I made a mistake, and I have changed already. I used the last 3 months to work on myself and also move on from everything, and I can say for a fact that I'm already a changed person. Sebastian and I might have gone our separate ways, but I still love him. I don't know why I have been feeling that all these while, but I have been trying not to give it hope because I don't see Sebastian and I ever coming back together. My ex-husband is done with me for good. So guys, I lost my job during the divorce case. Up till now, my boss doesn't have any valid reason why he sacked me, but I know it's all Sebastian's influence. The handwriting is boldly written on the wall. What pains me the most is the fact I can't confront any of them about it. Just for the sake of my mental health, I decided to let it go because it was pointless going over to fight for what's already been gone. Confronting them would not bring back my job anyway. Sebastian has successfully ruined my life. My job of 13 years has ended, and my marriage also. I'm still trying to process everything that happened. It hurts so much knowing that I was the root cause of everything. I pray that I can move past this phase as soon as possible. You guys would be wondering what happened between Fred and I, right? Well, we broke up before the divorce. I don't even want to remember meeting anyone like Fred ever again. I want to focus on getting back on my feet and starting afresh. Guys, it hasn't really been easy on my path. My luxury and comfortable life have been taken away from me, and now I'm going off on the street trying to make ends meet. I never imagined that a day like this would come. If anyone had told me this, I wouldn't have believed it.